I'm Anna from Solar for Schools, and we'll be kicking off in just a moment. Thank you very much for finding time in your busy school day to join us. I'm going to be handing over to Dr. Simon Opher very shortly. Perhaps if you wouldn't mind popping in the chat who you are and what you're hoping to get out of this and or why you've joined us today, and perhaps your role within the school that you are representing. That would be really helpful. And then at the end, we will be taking some questions. But actually, if you throughout the course of the presentation, just please do feel free to pop questions into the chat. And the final thing was just to say I will be recording this, so just to let you all know. So yeah, I'd like to hand over to Dr. Simon Opher. Thank you.
Hi there. Thanks, Anna. Yeah, my name's Dr. Simon Opher. I'm Stroud MP, a Labour MP, and I'm also a GP who I work in Dursley, not as much as I used to, but I'm still doing a bit of that. And I've got solar panels on my GP surgery roof, so I know all about installing them. So look, we're really welcome to this. And what I would say about this is it's something that we're really trying to promote in the government. It's about getting sustainable energy installed into as many schools as possible. So many schools have either flat roofs or south-facing pitched roofs, which are ideal for solar. That we're doing a big drive to get solar onto every roof possible, so that we don't have to put so many onto fields, which are both unpopular and it might restrict farming to a degree. So we're trying to promote the use, particularly of schools and of hospitals. And in terms of the school side of things, up till quite recently, there was a barrier to getting solar panels put on schools, particularly if you didn't own them. And that was because it was considered to be a loan which counted on the national debt. So the Treasury weren't happy with that. We've now cleared that. So that's not a barrier to having solar on your roof. So I'm really interested in getting these installed into as many schools as possible. And I think the advantages for schools is firstly, you're going to get you can reduce your energy costs, which is a big one, obviously. Secondly, you're going to help to save the environment and reduce your carbon output, which again is really important. And I think the third thing, which I'm really interested in as well, is that schools that have solar the kids get really involved in it. And I think one of the exciting things about it is they often get that they look at the readouts and all the data coming from their solar panels. They work out how much carbon they've saved, how much money they've saved, etc. And it becomes a really living experience about how we need to switch to more sustainable energy. So the learning's great. And the finances are good too for the school. In terms of funding, which I won't go into too much because we've got the team from Solar for Schools here who can really talk through that. But so there's lots of different models that you can do. You could, if you want to, you can pay for them yourselves. Most schools aren't able to do that, to be fair, but that is an option. Secondly, there's an option where, and Anna can go into that a bit later, where other people sort of pay for it. You get some of the benefits, but and they get a sort of fixed benefit in terms of sort of interest on their investment. The third way is due to be announced on the 12th of February, so a little bit early for that. And it's involved with GB Energy, which is this new nationally owned energy provider. And it's called the local power plan. So we don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it may be either very low cost loans that you can get, or it may be grant based from the district council. So we'll see what happens there. And that could key into something called community owned energy. And this is something that I noticed Jess has joined the call from the Stroud Area Community Energy Network, which we've been working with for over a couple of years. And what happens there is instead of community benefit societies from across the UK sort of investing in this, we actually get local parents and teachers, if they're interested, to put money into it. and then get a sort of fixed return on that, knowing that their capital will actually be helping the school and also helping the environment as well. So that's a model that could work going forward as well. We on the Stroud Area Community Energy Network, there's been a couple of schools. Minchinhampton have got a community-owned solar panels on their roof, and I think they'd be very happy for you to contact them about the benefits that they've seen from that. And certainly one of the things they do say is about the learning around it, which is really, really crucial. So schools should all be about learning, as well as you have to make sure that your finance is balanced. So it's a great way of doing that. So I won't go on any more because we don't know the actual details of that announcement, but that's certainly, I think, worth waiting for. But Solar for Schools are a great organisation that are working across the country, and they've got a lot of expertise as well. So I think they're going to explain a little bit about the funding models that they've used across the country, and also about, I think they're going to use Maidenhill as an example of how you could put solar on schools. So I'll hand back to you now, Anna, if that's okay. And I realise we've got about another 21 minutes, so I'm aware of that.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Simon. And thanks again, everyone, for being here today. I'm going to hand now over to Charles Ahenda-Bengo, who's one of my colleagues, and he will walk you through how the process works. And then we will both Charles and Richard will be available for questions. So as I say, pop any questions in the chat as they pop into your head. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Charles.
Well, thank you, Anna, and thank you, Simon, as well. So yeah, I'm the regional schools advisor for Solar for Schools for the south and the southwest of the country. And Richard will be supporting me as well to answer any questions that you have. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and he'll do his best to answer them. So in terms of what we want to just chat about briefly today is why Solar for Schools is a good partner for your school, and also a bit about the education impact that we have, because that's really what underpins what we do at Solar for Schools. And then the next steps to take if you are interested. Now, in terms of what we offer, we have an end-to-end service provision. So we offer a whole variety of options for getting solar panels on your school. So there's funding, development, installation, management. Crucially, that's what's tied to the education workshop that we use to inspire behavioral change in the children. So I think to sum it up, we try and take the hassle out of getting solar panels in your school. So we deal with everything. So whether it's one thing or everything, we can deal with it depending on what your needs are. Now, as earlier stated, I'd like to show you a quick demo of Maidenhill Schools, which is one of the schools in Stroud, and I do believe we have a representative there, so it'll be good to get your input. I think it's Kevin Howie. But sorry to put you on the spot. But what we'll do here, I will show you, if you can see my screen. So this is our in-house tool called the Panelizer. And it's a very simple tool that we use actually in our education workshops to teach the children about financial literacy skills and how the solar panels actually impact their schools. But it's actually our main tool as well to calculate, the cost of putting the solar panels in the schools, and crucially the savings that the school will be able to enjoy over time. Now, as you can see here, you just click this panel button here, and you can just drag and drop. We have loads of lovely flat roofs at Maidenhill. So we put these blue panels on the roof, and then you can easily align them as well. Obviously orientate them to the direction of the sun, which is usually in the south or the east or the west. You can change the sizes as well. So it's very straightforward and easy to use. And then, of course, if you don't have flat roofs and you have maybe pitched roofs as well, you can change that and use these red ones instead. So very simple, very easy to use. And the key thing that it links to, if I pop this financial information, we usually request for your utility invoices, and it gives us some crucial data that the consumption of your school, the electricity consumption, and the price that you pay for your electricity, for your mains electricity. Now, at the moment, we are using some assumed figures here for Maidenhill because we don't have the actual figures. But once we do, or once they're sent over to us, then we normally plug them in here. At the moment, these assumed figures are based on the number of students at the school. And this price paid 21 pence per kilowatt hour, that's a conservative estimate that we use. But typically, you know, we see prices of 24 to 25p on average. I've seen as high as 36p just last month. So it really varies. Now, as we can see here, we've managed to fit about 380 panels on Maidenhill's roofs. That's equivalent to 142.5 kilowatt peak. And from that, we're able to ascertain the solar rate, which is 25%. Now, the solar rate is how much of the mains electricity the solar panels will replace. So it'll be 25%. And with that, there's different funding options that we're also able to offer to the schools. So over here, you can plug in different funding models, as Simon mentioned earlier. There's, you know, obviously the local plan coming, the GB Energy. We've already worked with a variety of different funding options. Milton Keynes here in the Milton Keynes area, we work with a community energy group there that we're able to plug in their funding model. However, the one that we probably use the most is a Solar for Schools CBS, that's a Community Benefit Society. And that's a not-for-profit organization actually made up of over 230 schools that we have installed that. We have funded and installed, and we're managing those systems. So from that, this CBS option, if I pick that, essentially what would happen is at Maidenhill, obviously subject to site surveys and getting, you know, the accurate data, would be able to offer what's called a power purchasing agreement, this PPA price of 14.8 pence per kilowatt hour. Now, what that means is that for every kilowatt hour of electricity that comes from the solar and is consumed by the school, they would pay it at this price. And obviously the school would enjoy some, you know, good savings based on this 21 pence that they pay for the mains rate. So that's about a third off. Now the PPA lasts for 25 years. And during that 25 years, we forecast, you know, based on this assumption, the school could enjoy as much as almost £350,000. But the crucial thing is they'd be able to enjoy those savings from the first year alone. So they're over £5,400 just from the first year. Now, tied into that PPA price would be the asset management. So there's an annual visual inspection every year. We have remote monitoring tools as well. So we're able to see, you know, how the panels are producing. And we actually provide an online portal for, you know, staff to use, and that we actually use in the education workshops with the children whilst we're doing the asset management. On top of that, as part of the asset management, every 5 years, there's an electrical inspection done by engineers, and a certificate is provided for that as well. So all in all, it's really a great way to get the solar panels on the school at no capital cost, upfront capital cost, and then actually you'll save money because, you know, the PPA rate is would be less than what you'd pay for your mains electricity. Also tied into that PPA rate, there's insurance, so the panels are fully insured. And in terms of how do we get, you know, our assumptions and our calculations, is we manage, we've installed at over 230 schools, but we actually manage over 300 schools. So on top of the 230, there's another 70 schools that had existing systems. So if you have existing solar PV panels on your roof, we're able to take them on and provide the asset management. And based on that, we're able to model, you know, kind of the yield and the patterns of school behavior. So we have really accurate calculations as to what your school can achieve. I think with that, maybe I will jump back into, yes, managed to do it first time. Excellent. So another thing I'd like to add as well is we're very flexible with what we offer. We're not a PFI. So there's no contingent liabilities placed on the schools. As Simon mentioned earlier, we won't penalize you for any energy that the school hasn't generated. And at the end of the PPA, at the end of the 25 years, if you want to take the panels off, we can take them off at no extra cost. If you want to keep them, the school will own the panels at that time. And actually, during that 25 years as well, if you want to buy out the panels, there's an option to buy it at a reduced rate after 5 years at a depreciated rate as well. So we offer quite a bit of flexibility. There's also optional contributions. If you want to put up some money, you can put some money in and reduce the PPA rate as well at any time. Now, a little bit about in terms of the CBS and the impact that we've had. I've already mentioned over 230 schools we've built and managed. In terms of carbon reduction, it's over 8,700 tons over our lifetime. Those 230 schools translates to 25 megawatt peak of installed solar PV, and actually makes us the largest solar asset manager of schools in the UK. And in terms of what we've raised through the CBS, we've raised £12 million in crowdfunding, all strictly to install panels on schools and offering these funded options, whether it's fully funded or a blended option. Then, in terms of our education impact, as I've mentioned before, we've carried out assemblies, hundreds of assemblies on hundreds of schools, and reached tens of thousands of children, especially in the primary schools, but we also work in secondary schools. We have a team of very dedicated, high caliber solar educators, and they provide these interactive workshops. And then on top of that, we've also engaged with MPs. We had our second parliamentary showcase in December. I believe, Simon, you attended. Maybe if it's not too much to put you on the spot, maybe you can tell us how your experience was of that parliamentary showcase.
Yeah, no, it was very positive, and what was quite nice actually is you brought some children along from the school involved, and that was great actually, because that's what it's all about. Really, it's all about children, and we must make sure that we focus on that. But it was quite illuminating, and I think I do think it provided me as well with the sort of framework for all the options that you can do, because I think for a lot of schools want to do this, but a lot of schools also think, how do I do it, and how do I get about doing it? So I think Solar for Schools is definitely one of the ways that might be made easier as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And then, really, those in-person visits to schools, they are in person, and they use interactive tools and learning aids. And actually, one particular example I really like is to really teach children about, how much is 1 kilowatt, right? Like the measurement of energy and equating it to something. So 1 kilowatt is about, 20 children all pedaling really fast on a bicycle. That's equivalent to 1 kilowatt. So an activity we like to use is getting children to find out the power rating of everyday appliances. So for example, an iron is about 1 kilowatt. So ironing a shirt for 5 minutes or so would require 20 kids to pedal really fast. So it gives them that picture of, how much is that 1 kilowatt equal to, what type of activity, everyday activity, and how much appliances actually use. And then a really funny one is when we use showers. So an electric shower is about 10 kilowatts. So we usually ask the children, okay, how long do you spend in the shower? So one child might say, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. There's one particular child who said they spend 25 minutes every day in the shower. And if you equate that to how many kids, that's what 20 kids is 1 kilowatt. So 10 kilowatts is 200 kids. So that's almost what half their school would be needed to power that shower and for 25 minutes. So that always blows the minds of the children and really gets them thinking about what is energy, really. It's not just a number, it's actually, something physical. So that's sort of one of the ways that we do these in-person visits. And then, of course, there's an online portal as well that really gives visibility to your school's energy consumption and the panels as well, what they're generating. And we typically find within the first year of installation, there's a 29% reduction in consumption. So it obviously shows that it's really impactful, and it's really good to have that visibility on the data. And with that, that comes to the end of so the presentation. So if you do have any questions, if you are interested, please feel free to drop us an email. We usually respond within 48 hours. We can do a free desktop study for you, just as we have done for Maidenhill. And obviously we'd need your data, your utility data to be able to do that. But please feel free to drop me an email or give me a call. And I think we have a bit of time for some questions. So I'll open up the floor to any questions.
One of the schools is asking how long it would be to installation. So it'd be interesting. How long does it take to get solar panels from Liz? Can you fill us in on that?
Yes, no, thank you. So typically from once the school agrees, it typically takes between 4 to 7 months to do the development and do the installation. The actual installation itself is usually relatively quick. So that if I use Maidenhill as an example, that 140 kilowatt peak would take between 2 to 3 weeks. Our teams are very experienced installing at schools. They're all DBS enhanced checked. We've run due diligence checks on them. And some of the teams have been working with them for as long as 10 years.
Right.
So the actual installation doesn't take very long, but the development can take anything between 4 to 7 months. And it really depends on the landlord consent. So who owns the freehold of the school?
Okay. One thing I'll ask then, do we? So often, what holds up solar schemes is the input into the grid. So and sometimes that needs updating. Presumably, that will come in as part of your assessment. And in your experience, does that happen often, or is it usually okay? The grid infrastructure.
Yes, actually, good question. We work with the DNOs, the district network operators. We've worked with pretty much all of them across the country. It typically takes about 56 working days to get the grid approval, grid connection approval. And yeah, that is part of the development process. There's some other consents as well, planning consent, but that really depends on the size that is being offered. So anything below 50 kilowatts would be a permitted development and is relatively straightforward. Anything larger takes a little bit longer, maybe around 2 months to get the approvals. The times that we would need a full planning application is usually if there's a listed building on site or the school is within an area of outstanding natural beauty. Or a conservation area. So, but we deal with all of that. So the planning timescales can take anything between a few days to maybe 3 months for a full planning approval. So we handle all of that. We take the hassle away from the school.
Okay, that's great. I'm just trying to look through. You've answered the question about offering educational assemblies to schools. So that's good, and you would do that to schools even if they haven't actually signed up for that. So that's part of your remit. Okay.
Yes,
can I ask something? Just so
yes, sure.
I'm very clear about this. How are you funded as an organisation? Are you just out of interest?
Yeah, no, good question. So we are funded in a couple of different ways. I think the main way Anna had mentioned earlier, we have bondholders. I think about 1,000. Bondholders who are just people that are looking to have a social impact to where their money is invested.
Yeah.
The other sort of main way is through an ethical crowdfunding platform called Ethics,
Right.
where we raise, I think we've raised about 1 million every other month. And I think the last time, I think we raised a bit more, maybe Anna can clarify this. And those are all just purely for investing on solar on schools.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, no, because that's obviously we all have to be careful of that. Me probably more than anyone else actually, but obviously the schools want to be sure that it's not coming from dodgy companies or anything like that. So that's good. Okay, that's really useful. We've only got about 2 minutes left, but is there? I can't see any other questions. If anyone's been saying, have I missed something out? Has anyone else? The link and the tool is really useful. I found that. Jess has got a hand up. Jess. Right.
Steve from Redknock is also asking a question on here.
Steve, can you speak? Oh, he's asking about panels on car parking spaces and whether you have any experience of that. So could you speak about that?
Yeah, sure. I think that probably alludes to carports. So in terms of carports, we don't generally tend to do carports. We focus mainly on rooftops. That's the expertise of our teams. Carports tend to be quite a bit more expensive, usually because there's civil groundworks involved. You have to dig up trenches, on tarmac, and depending on how far, the carport might be from the incoming supply, would determine, how much trenching works you do, and then that usually adds significantly to the cost. So it tends to be something that we've not done so much of just because of the cost. It can be prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, that's good. And Steve's also asking about battery tech as well. Is that something you get involved with or not really?
So actually, historically, we've not done batteries because actually the demand profile of a school matches very well with the solar generation. And essentially, sort of the summer months when you would have, loads of solar and this, you'd store it. Basically, the batteries will be full, like the whole of the summer holidays are not used. And then in the winter, similarly, they'll be drained really quickly within a couple of hours. So historically, we've not really, seen the need to make it work. So we've not put batteries in, but we are piloting with a couple of schools to see how that might work in the future. So it may be something that we bring up. I think Richard might be able to say a bit more on that.
Yes, I've just seen Jess's question. So I was going to read it out. Jess asked if you are working with local CBSs or co-ops for funding, who is responsible for the asset management. And the truth to that is we work with all different types of community energy groups up and down the country. For example, we've developed a megawatt of solar with York Community Energy there. We're working with Milton Keynes, as Charles touched on earlier, to set up their community energy programme. And it always takes different forms and structures based on how experienced and developed that community energy group is. What tends to happen usually is we take on the asset management part because we have really good remote monitoring and reporting, and we have an asset management portal that we can provide to the energy group. So normally we manage that always for the community energy group, and then we deliver the education as well. So thanks for that.
I'm going to have to drop off. I think that's I think probably we all do need to now because we're 1 minute over. So thanks for all the questions, everyone. Yeah, so a few thank yous there as well in the in that. And as I say, my office is available to people as well if you've got any queries. I keep trying to arrange a visit to Redknock, Steve. So, but from a minister, but that's not coming off at the moment. They're all a bit busy, unfortunately. But I know you've already got some solar, which is a really good project and a good way of getting a bit more. But can I thank Solar for Schools, and can I thank everyone who's attended this meeting? And let's make this work. Let's get loads more solar in Stroud. That would be fantastic, I think. So thanks very much, everyone. I'm gonna log off now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much,
everyone.
Simon.